Hi Emily, how you doing?
Hi Mark, I'm doing very well, thank you. How are things with you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. It's good to see you again.
Yeah,
We only caught up a couple of episodes ago, I think. We were talking all things flips, weren't we?
yes.
And I think you and I had a conversation off the back of that about, or it's something we've talked a lot about recently, is about direct to vendor as well. And I know you're pretty passionate about that area of things as a strategy. And I think what we're probably going to touch on a little bit further down the line today as well is not just direct to vendor in terms of the practical aspects of the strategy, but the way we go about doing it, I guess.
Absolutely.
Like our approach to it. Direct to vendor, basically, in a nutshell, is sourcing property deals which could be purchase or rental, or like a rent to rent, direct with the seller or with the vendor, so not through a lettings agent or a sales agent, and having that direct conversation, which for anybody that's listening to this that perhaps is new to property investment or hasn't got started on their property investment journey yet, that in itself may be a revelation. That I think, the vast majority of people still think that the only way you can buy and sell property is through Rightmove and through an estate agent. Now, clearly we know that's not the case. And, it's good to know, it's useful to know that, because it opens up a whole wealth of possibilities, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's what direct to vendor gives you is flexibility, and it allows you to solve problems. So someone asked me the other day, is it that you just hate estate agents? And categorically, the answer to that is no. I don't hate estate agents. I hate estate agents. Absolutely do a fantastic service. Yes, they can be challenging at times, but everyone's there to they're there to protect the vendor. They're obviously there to work on a commission for themselves and try and negotiate. So what they are in that respect can just be a middleman. Now, I've absolutely had dealings with agents that have been really up for creative solutions. And I think this is where the challenge is this just sometimes a creative solution has to be a win-win. And I know I don't always cut out the agent. If we come to a deal and we work with something that's going to work down the line, we may still have to honour the agent's agreement. That's totally fine. I have no issue in doing that. So I think put that point out there first.
I think that's a really important point to start with, actually, because I think that there might be people out there, for example, that are pushing that direct to vendor is the only way and estate agents are the devil. And that's simply not the case, is it? I know we continue to work hard to build really positive relationships with the good estate agents in our areas. And, we've done plenty of deals on market as well as plenty of deals off market.
The main reason that people, I guess, don't get involved with direct to vendor is there's a bit of a learning there as to what is it, what seems normal, what are you supposed to do? And that's certainly something I want to make sure that we cover as well. It's just the understanding of the situation, the person that you're dealing with, but understanding as well that it doesn't have to be perfect. And direct to vendor doesn't always necessarily mean that you have to have leaflets. For me, if I say the absolute base things you need for direct to vendor is a business card and some sort of letter. The handwritten ones, I still use them. Absolutely key in terms of setting out that you're looking to buy property in this area. Those are the first two things you need. So it isn't fancy. All you need is access to a photocopier for your letters, and you need access to something like Vistaprint that you can go create a template off of. You just need to have information, because ultimately what direct to vendor comes down to is that people are going to go in to create a deal with you, and we've talked about this in angel finances, because they like, know and trust you.
Yeah.
It is that simple. And so they're not going to be wowed over by a really fancy leaflet. They're going to want to talk to the person who ultimately they're going to sell the house to. And they're going to want to like that person. They're going to want to get to know that person, and they're going to want to build trust.
Yeah. So I know, for example, that one of our most recent direct to vendor deals was a lease option that came off the back of a conversation with a property owner at a networking event, for example. So it's not like that came from a specific strategy or leaflet that I'd put through a door. That was just through an awareness that actually, by talking to people, by constantly sharing what you're doing, what you have to offer, and also being open to creative kind of win-win solutions.
Yes.
I mean, that particular conversation that I'm thinking of went, you know, really from 0 to 60 pretty quickly once we both identified pain points in each other's situation that we could potentially solve. Lee, like you said, it's a lot of this is about rapport building, isn't it?
What I would say is direct to vendor is not a way to find you're going out to find the absolute cheapest deals. It's not that you're going to go and take advantage of somebody. So you're going to have people in some difficult financial situations. And again, I'm going to go back to that win-win situation. If it doesn't solve the problem, if it doesn't feel like a win for them, I personally completely draw the line going, if I can't offer them the best solution, and may I point out the best solution 99% of the time is being able to keep them in their own home. I often say that direct to vendor, giving them a deal, working on something, it's almost the last option.
Yeah.
Because I've been in situations where someone was on a variable rate mortgage and was going, I'm going to get repossessed. I don't know what to do. Panic, you know, state of kind of, oh my goodness, I've never been in this situation before. But because we have a lack of financial education in this country in general, they hadn't realized that after their 2-year product, when it went onto the variable rate, it was as simple as phoning up their bank and going on to another fixed rate. So getting them to do that, phoning up the bank, finding out the options, and all of a sudden going, I'm going to save £200-300 a month. I'm really sorry, I've wasted your time. That's not wasting my time. That is them getting to stay in their house and hopefully a referral onto someone else that is in a situation. So, you know, we need to understand that these are people that we're dealing with. We don't have that middle person of an agent to fight on their behalf, which is the reason some people obviously do go with estate agents. But you also have people in situations where it's not just about the money. It can be hundreds of different things that is not financially motivated. But equally, there's going to be a limit of to what they can accept, particularly if they've got a mortgage, particularly if they're, you know, they need a certain amount to be able to move on with their lives.
I think ethics is something that we probably don't discuss enough in property investment circles. And you're absolutely right. As you're talking now, I'm remembering times all too often where I will have seen comments on a Facebook forum or something like that, where you sort of get the impression that the investor or the person is almost rubbing their hands together in glee that they've got direct to vendor access, and it's allowed them to hammer off another 10 grand on the asking price or something like that, you know. And I think that's probably what you're getting at, isn't it? This is not about creating opportunity to exploit somebody's situation. Exactly. It's about recognizing their situation, which in itself is hard enough if there's an agent in the way, because they don't almost want to give you bargaining power as they see it. So they won't give you the full story necessarily, or you'll get it in dribs and drabs as you go through. So really getting to understand the pain points and the situation, and genuinely sitting across a table, if you like, looking each other in the eye and saying, right, how can we help? Now, clearly it has to work for us as an investor, whatever solution we come with, but ultimately it needs to be a win-win situation, for it not to be a situation where we're exploiting someone's scenario, I guess. And
I guess it's not talked about because it's not sexy to say walk away from a deal. You know?
Or to keep someone in the house, like you say, when surely what we're looking to try and do as investors is you know, buy houses off of people.
But I think it's such an important thing to put out there that you can do both.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? It's the empathy, it's the human side of things. It's you know, I know that my wife and I, when we first got into property investment, we were acutely aware of the negative side of the reputation that some property investors have, or the property investment industry has, of being quite cutthroat, quite selfish. And we very much, just within our own small way, wanted to go about trying to disprove that and show that you can build a property portfolio which is quite I guess, a single-minded venture in some ways, without treading all over people on the way. And
absolutely, and that's the point, that on all our direct-to-vendor deals, the vendor has said thank you.
Yeah.
And then there's one case where I'm still in contact with a vendor, and we pop whenever we're up in that area, we pop in for a cup of tea. She's genuinely happy to see where we're going in the business. And I'm genuinely happy to see that her and her partner are happy and they've got one less thing to worry about, and they were delighted with the outcome. You know, if it hadn't been a win-win, I certainly wouldn't have been invited in for a cup of tea.
So in some situations, being able to remove or not have not have an agent as a kind of interfering influence or middleman within that situation, then yes, it does allow us to do more creative deals. But again, not so that we can fleece the owner, not so that we can do a lease option, because how cool is it that I don't have to pay anything for a property and then I can just walk away, you know, which is worryingly what a lot of people seem to latch onto about a lease option, is the ability to walk away from it, rather than actually presenting that as a solution to a potential problem that the seller has that would never have seen the light of day had it gone through an agent. Because as good as a lot of agents are, realistically, they're motivated by their sales commission. And unless you can find a way to make that a win-win-win, then it's difficult sometimes to have those or put those propositions through an agent.
I will say, though, I have had some conversations with absolutely fantastic agents, oftentimes independent agents, because they've got the ability to be a bit more flexible. But I have met agents who have worked in some of the bigger, you know, UK-wide names as well, that totally get the benefits of what we're doing, why it's important, you know, particularly if they've got a problem property, they don't want on their books.
It's time, isn't it? How long it's actually been on the market.
Struggling to shift it. The owner maybe is a challenge. So you can, especially if the vendor is in the property, or you speak to the agent and you can have a conversation with them saying, would the vendor be interested in speaking to me?
Yeah.
For that agent, they were going, well, okay, why would I not put that forward? Because actually we're going to have a challenge with this owner, and actually we can get it off the books and progress with it, then that'll make our lives easier. So you definitely can have some of those conversations in with an agent, and that's just part of negotiation. But you have to then, unless you've got a really, really fantastic agent that knows absolutely everything, is very good at relaying stuff, you're then just otherwise teaching the agent, and you're adding delay into it rather than coming up with solutions there and then. I guess the main point of this is, okay, you're going through training or you're listening to podcasts and you hear how people speak to agents and this is the process they go through. Don't assume because someone else has done that process, it must be the way that you then follow it.
Yeah.
If you're thinking in your head, but if we could do this, then ask, you know, challenge what is the standard way of doing things. Challenge the way that people say, oh, you can't do that. I mean, I was talking to my husband about this earlier. When someone tells me that something can't be done, it 100% drives me to go and find a way to go, okay, well, if you can't do it that way legally, and we're not trying to, you know, some of this was contractual stuff in Scotland for assisted sales, there has to be a way you can do it in a different way that gives you the same security, a different legal method of doing it, or just asking a question or coming up with solutions. It's all about creativity. It's all about going, well, nobody said I can't offer to pay their rental deposit. Nobody said I can't offer to pay their moving fees, because if someone's in a position where they literally have no money and they don't know how they're going to sell it, well, what are the challenges? What are the barriers? Let's write them all out. Let's have a look at them. And then we provide a solution for each one. That's how I do it in a meeting with a vendor. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, I happen to know that you're working on a resource at the moment with exactly this in mind for direct to vendor, a kind of an information pack, I guess. So maybe I hope I'm not putting you on the spot.
No, it's okay.
Maybe tell us a little bit about what you're trying to achieve with that and what it's going to look like and what people can expect.
I mean, it's certainly been a passion project of mine for the longest time, just because that's how I got started in property myself. Like, I actually struggled to make the on-market deals work for a while. And so again, it's taking all those learnings, and yes, okay, it's there to give ideas, it's there to stimulate thought, it's there to basically a resource pack of, okay, if you want to go full in direct to vendor, you know, you can do little bits, or here's lots of ideas right up to if you decide to do radio ads. I mean, that's taking it to the next level. But at the base level, just what you need to consider, and it's considering it from the other point, the other side. Like, do you need to have a company name on it? Do you need to put your face name on it? What simple things that we've had students that have created the most beautiful business cards and then forgotten to put a phone number on it. So it's a how-to guide of creation. It's a how-to guide of thinking about how you present yourself, and it's a how-to guide of then through that process sitting down with the vendor, how to, the first phone call, what do you do, where do you get your mobile number from, what are the options? So all of those little bits of detail, collated that, put on that kind of top and tail bit of understanding, well, there's morality here, you need to consider what you're doing, but also at the end, all the checklists that you're going to need to do, but also one really important thing as well about, you don't go into a vendor meeting necessarily with strategy in mind, because you're there to think about the pain points. So, and it's something that basically just creating that as a starting guide for people to break down the barrier of thinking this is a really tricky, difficult thing and I need to have everything perfect. So simplifying it, putting in a logical order and a step-to-step guide, basically.
I think it's a really fascinating blend of your creative side from your marketing background, but then it's very much the practical implementation of kind of what we just talked about. So we kind of covered a little bit of just ethics and theory today, but really this is the practical step-by-step implementation, isn't it? Which walks people through the process. And I think you're absolutely right about not potentially strategy is entirely the wrong word. And that actually, when I speak to coaching clients about getting into a conversation with a seller, I think, they find that quite daunting, and part of that's because they put themselves under pressure to, within a moment's notice, be able to rattle off all the ins and outs of an assisted sale or something. Well, my thing is, look, that first conversation, just ask questions.
Yes.
Just ask questions. You don't have to pitch anything. And then you say, look, I'm going to go away. I'm going to have a think about that. I'm going to see if there's anything we can do that's like going to help both of us. So that's all it is, isn't it? It's just going into these things with an open mind. And I think your guide is just going to help people set themselves up in the right way to have those conversations. So if people want to get hold of that pack you're working on, is it a watch this space exercise? Keep an eye on your socials, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram's probably the majority of the place that I kind of put most stuff up there. So follow me. It's Voberg_Emily. So VOEBERG _Emily. And I'll be posting some stuff up there. And equally, if anyone has any questions that they come across or challenges, then I'm happy to be a second pair of eyes for anyone that's struggling. But I think it's just a case of give it a shot. The tip that I say to my students often is, if you're out viewing, go and stick 10 letters down, and for every viewing you do, go and put 10 letters out on that street.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of you need to go and spend hours and hours doing direct to vendor. It's integrate it into your strategy and work from there. Yeah. Increase it from there.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for your insight on that. It's great to chat as always. Hopefully people have found that an interesting take on the direct to vendor strategy. But I will leave you to the rest of your busy day, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me again on the podcast.
No problem. Thank you, Mark, for having me.
Take care. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.